What? Where even started? Let's get some money first.
At least we got the PS5 in our hands.
I know. Like, do you know how sought after this thing is? So many people are like, "Do you have a PS5? Are you getting?" I see people in the US obviously are able to buy. Some at least are able to get it. But locally, I think you are the only person I know of
Well, I got it via somebody to do this.
who has this.
So, yeah.
Like literally, you're the only person I know who even has access to it. Like, wow.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, on that beautiful note, how's it, everybody? My name is Regardt. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 3 of this wonderful tech show Nao and I have put on for you. Nao, how's it? From the Overclock magazine.
I'm good. I'm good. Good to be here in front of the PS5. Finally, one of the few people who actually get to experience this beautiful machine.
The monolith.
Yes.
And you've had some time to play with this. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. For
I
sure.
brought you in kind of blindfolded, petals on the floor to your new. What
Of
did
course.
you think of it?
I think it was a pretty awesome
First
experience.
First impression.
Awesome. It's big. Like people used to say that it's big, right? And I hadn't actually seen it, and I see it in the flesh, as they say, and it's quite big. It's bigger than I would have ever imagined, but I kind of like it. I think the design works aesthetically, at least for me.
Yeah, look, that's definitely the first thing we chat about. I mean, as you can see on the screen between us, dividing us, this beautiful monolithic device. I'm just going to turn it sideways so you guys can see kind of the profile on the side. We'll obviously have some beautiful B-roll overlay that I've shot on this too. But I mean, as you can see, this thing is designed to be a centerpiece in your console. I mean, the living room has changed in many ways. Your computer room has changed in many ways. So if you look at this thing as a computer, which it is, so you're looking at this as a console PC with it's a locked ecosystem, so you can only buy games developed for it on there. So all those things aside, I mean, what you have here is a full-on machine, right?
Definitely.
That's capable of playing some really good games. And we're calling it next gen, but let's be honest, for now we're only really seeing ray tracing.
Yeah.
But the era is here where we've got machines powerful enough in a closed unit, you know, that I always loved. One thing I loved about console gaming is you don't have to upgrade your hardware all the time.
Still one of the biggest draws to console gaming is that you buy once, you just play for the game. PCs have come a long way, of course. I really have PC gaming issues on
You can play a lot more with better cards, with entry-level cards these days.
You play and then the experience is much easier, but it's never going to be as easy as just hitting your PS button and then playing. It's just never going to be. And also talking about how quickly you can get up and play. SSDs in this now make instant resume.
But only for save games, we should note. So it's only for save games on backward compatible games, I believe.
Oh.
So, I mean, they will obviously unlock it in the future, I think. It comes with, it's a terabyte drive, but after I think on the box it says 800 and something gigabytes. But after the operating system, it's actually 670 gigabytes.
See that.
Which isn't too bad. I mean, okay, so you'll be able to play most of your games. You're probably going to want a fast internet connection for this because games are big. I see some local guys are advertising a PS5 deal with a 10 meg line, which I don't think is sick. I mean, you might be able to play. Well, you will be able to play live multiplayer games, but getting content is going to take a while.
That's the part that's actually going to be annoying. I mean, if you think, what's this Call of Duty Cold War? It's apparently coming in at 250 gigabytes. Imagine having to do that on a 10 meg line.
Especially if you have a small hard drive, I mean, you're gonna want to uninstall that game at some point to make space for something else. And when you want a game again,
exactly, you're gonna think, 250 gigs. I mean, 250 gigs is a lot on a 100 meg line, but it's bearable, right? On a 10 meg, no. But anyway, this is the future, definitely.
So the first thing, I mean, looking at this thing, obviously it looks like next gen. Sony was very purposeful with how they developed this thing. You can see it when it stands next to your TV. I mean, it stands out from anything else, you know, in your TV room or in my studio, for example, my PC room, so your gamer room. If this is standing next to your PC, as if you have multiple platforms that you game on, or if you just have this as a single unit next to a screen in your PC room as a gaming room, right, which a lot of people have, I think this thing looks amazing. I love it.
No, it is. I appreciate that there was actually some design thought went into this thing. And yes, a solid box of whatever color works. But I think this is pretty cool. It's something to look at as well because there's a relationship you form with things that's a material one more than just the games.
Yeah, and aesthetics, obviously you can put it horizontally, which you will see on screen at some point now. And I mean, I'm sure most people will put it up like this. There is a base that comes within the box that allows you to do both orientations. You don't need to use a stand in this position because it is flush, at least, with the table, but Sony recommends for airflow. But to be honest with you, this thing doesn't with or without a stand. I mean, they're still kind of covered. It's still kind of covered there. So, no, if you want to put it flash on the table, I don't think there would be an issue with this. I mean, when we look at this device, next-gen console, there's 2 versions coming out. This one with the slot for discs, and obviously the discless one.
Yes.
I think there's a 2 or 3 grand difference between the two, but I don't honestly, I'm not the type of person that would go for if I'm going to go for one of these, I won't go for the discless version. I don't know what your thoughts on that. I mean, you seem to me like you would go for the discless.
I wouldn't mind necessarily the discless one, but the thing is, there's a whole library of games that are on disc that people around me have. So friends, family, and whatnot. And it would be cool to have access to those games. And if I just go for the digital version, I can't.
What cuts off your entire library that you already have? Buying second-hand games is always an issue.
Yeah, so there is that.
So, I mean, you might not find disc-based versions. I mean, these things are scarce. What is hen's teeth? But all right, so some of the issues aside, like if you can get your hands on one and you've chosen one of these beautiful disc versions, which I would highly recommend. I mean, it's going to set yourself back about 12 grand.
Yes.
It's not a bad upgrade if you are a PlayStation user and you kind of want to take things further and you kind of spend your money on the PlayStation ecosystem. I think you'll be able to justify this purchase.
I think for me, I always look how long a console generation lasts. You look at the PS4, that was what, 2013? That's what came out. We're in 2020 now. That's a long time. So if you break down that initial purchase price over the years that you're going to use it, you're actually not paying much.
Yeah,
literally.
Right. I mean, you'll be able to play a big collection of games. So, I mean, the console is a pretty fantastic piece of hardware. I mean, I can't fault it. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. Part of me do prefer the Xbox's beautiful box shape.
Oh, okay.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
Just like
those curves, you know.
Oh, man, those corners. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
you know how it's contoured over, I don't know, a box.
This is the curves you're looking for. But I think, look, we've spoken a bit about the console, but we really need to start the real conversation about this console with this thing. I mean, this controller, you've had some time to play with it now. I mean, I think this is what steals the show because of the haptic feedback built in virtually every controller button. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, to be honest, this is the thing that blew me away more than what I necessarily saw on screen. That was impressive, but this is the tactile feedback. And the little nuanced things that the game throws at you that you feel through the controller, the microphone and so. And I think it's just well designed. In fact, I want to use this as my new controller for my PC gaming as well.
That'll be amazing, but I doubt that you'll ever be able to do that, right?
Can
you do it with the PlayStation 4 controller?
Yeah, you could do it with the PlayStation 4. So like
I did not know that.
Windows 10 update some time ago actually allowed you to do that. So, and it actually recognizes it as a controller.
Well, there's a secondary purchase option if you want to get a second controller, because these things aren't going to be cheap, right?
Oh, definitely. They're not going to be cheap. But the thing is, if I have one for PC, right, when I eventually get a PS5, then I just have a second controller, right, which...
Question is, will your game support it?
I think so. I think Steam supports the PS5 controller now.
All the haptics that's in the controller.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. So I'll probably get regular Rumble, but I must say to you, like just in how this feels, right in your hands, this feels so solid. It actually feels more premium than the current Xbox One controller I'm using.
I've always found Xbox controllers to be a bit hefty in size. I don't know. They had a weird, comfortable feeling to them. But this one feels like, I can grip it for a couple of hours. When gameplay gets tense, you do tend to grab onto this thing.
It's so solid. I'm actually quite convinced about this. Like I said, the little audio that comes through when you're using it, and just the feedback, the haptic feedback, the resistance on the controllers. Basically, everything about this is just, this is the part that's next gen that I can appreciate immediately, as opposed to just the visuals.
So like Nahir said, there's a tiny little speaker built in, and it just adds a high level of fidelity to the gameplay. So a crash or picking up coins. There's this crisp sound that comes through that, I don't know, adds a lot of feel to the game. Combine that with the actuators and the vibration feedback in this controller. It's a nice all-round addition, I think. The touchpad is very sensitive. Also, you can do very nice things. The demo games that come with it, like, really exploit this. So, when you do the triggers and kind of the rocket goes up, it's very cool. It's a very cool way to experience what this controller can do.
I can imagine the games where you have to cast something like a spell or so forth. This thing is so sensitive that you could actually use this
Oh, you have to do like a
touchpad
little
to
wand
do your
pattern or
your
something.
wand pattern or something like that. So I can imagine there's a whole lot of uses that you could have actually for this.
Definitely.
And it's I mean, I was signing my signature and so forth. It's actually quite good. It works better than I would have ever imagined. It's the immersion of the entire thing. I think that I come away with having used this controller. The whole experience is very immersive, right?
I think immersive is exactly the right word.
How it moves and the sound that you're talking about and everything. It's just a well-made design, and technologically, I think it works.
Definitely. I mean, the standout for me was the triggers get tighter. So there's this haptic feedback in the triggers that, for example, pulling a bow and arrow, you can imagine as you pull that arrow back, or as you pull a rope, as was in one of the games, you pull kind of ropes out of the ground. You feel kind of the tension build until it snaps, and then it kind of releases it. It's little things, and I think that, to me, in many ways, is what next gen is, as you mentioned earlier. The graphics has already been good. We've had great graphics in games. Ray tracing is there. I mean, we'll chat about games in detail now, but we want another immersive experience. I mean, PlayStation did do a bit of VR stuff. I mean, this can certainly handle that type of things. I'm sure we'll see stuff like that in the future. But again, game development support isn't always there. So next gen, in terms of the capability to do ray tracing, not all the developers are exploiting that at the moment. So we should see hopefully some more better looking games in the future, not just remasters of old games to bring out that quality. All those will also be nice to see. There's one last thing on the controller. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but if you take a closer look at the grip and look at the pattern, take a closer look at that pattern that's on there. Have you seen how cool?
No, I actually just noticed it now, as you just pointed it out.
The little XO triangle and square symbols for PlayStation.
They are so small. It actually just looks like some random pattern until you look really closely. How did they pull this off?
And then also on the inside of the case, you'll also see that same pattern. I would have liked it if they put it on the outside, to be honest, but I think it would have attracted too much dust. But on that note, we should also say this thing is a fingerprint magnet of note. So the black part, at least, the white is nice. But how cool is that? Little PlayStation symbols.
This little attention to detail is part of why I buy into the whole PlayStation experience. It always feels so premium.
Yeah.
It always really does feel so premium.
So one last thing to mention on this, it's about a day and a half battery life, depending on what game you play and how much of the haptics are actually being used in the game. So it's not bad. I mean, it's got USB-C powered, so you'll be charging it every other day. If you're playing it heavily, probably every day. I believe the Xbox lasts a bit longer, but again, you can't fault the mechanics in this thing. I mean, it takes a lot of power to power all of those little gizmos.
Oh, definitely. It's such a well-built controller. Honestly, I think it's the best controller that I've held in my hand. Like just the feel, how solid it is, and how.
I agree with you. Next gen, indeed. Yeah. Now we spoke about the games a bit. So far, when you look at the titles that's out for the PlayStation 5, there's nothing really that makes you go, "Wow, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen."
No.
Having said that, as the launch title, Spider-Man Miles Morales is a pretty beautiful Spider-Man game, probably the best Spider-Man game in the recent franchise we've seen.
Yes.
And the ray tracing looks beautiful.
It looks amazing. That scene or that set piece with the Rhino, that actually looked amazing when you're in the shopping mall and so forth. I think it gets to that place where if you are watching somebody play that and you're not aware that they're playing a game, that could be part of some fancy Hollywood CG movie or perhaps even a real movie, because it's so well built. The cinematic elements of it just come together to make you feel that you're having a next gen experience. So I think that part is really, really amazing with the ray tracing and all of those things. And this is early days.
You know? And that really is, in many ways, what next gen is going to unleash for us is that pure Hollywood experience. People are playing a movie by playing a game, right? You're playing a storyline, unless you're doing multiplayer, kind of battle royale style shooters, which is just all out action. But like in Spider-Man, Miles Morales, this is a beautiful storyline if you're into the Spider-Man multiverse story. And it's fun to play. It's a full-on story. And, I think we're going to see a lot. I mean, we've seen a lot more of these story-driven titles doing really well. But that is the future of next-gen gaming, that immersive experience where you feel like you're playing the movie.
Yes.
And I can see a future where we would have a live-action, full-on movie that you can control and take the characters to go different ways and do things. I mean, the tech is certainly gearing up for
Exactly. Why not? why not? I mean, this sort of console experience is something I wouldn't have imagined even as recent as when the PS3 came out. If you had to show me these sort of visuals and this controller, just this entire gaming experience, I would have told you that, no, that's going to take another 20 years or something like that. And yet, here we are, right? I mean, the ray tracing was always the holy grail of rendering, okay? And now that we're able to do it, even in limited forms, we are able to do it. That means we've reached a milestone. And it's the same with the controller. This controller there's nothing like it has come before. So we've reached a milestone, and how we interact with the games has reached a milestone as well. And I think the entire gaming experience is richer for it, and PS5 is that to me, at least.
And look, PS5, even though Xbox has launched, has undoubtedly stolen the show this year, as I think they do most times when they launch. They've got a cult following, and I mean that with all respect, because, PlayStation fans are a dedicated bunch, and I really respect that out of the gaming community. Would I buy this? Would you buy this, changing up from a PC gaming experience? Maybe we're not the clientele. Maybe we're not the direct audience for this. I appreciate what it can do.
Yeah.
But for now, I'll probably hold on until next year. Wait for a few more titles to come out before I spend my money on it.
Oh, I'm committed to this one. This is a. I am definitely committed to this one. Like it was so automatic. After the PlayStation experience, when they basically were revealing all the games, and at the time I was still playing Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, on the PC, and then I saw the Forbidden West, and that literally took my breath away. Like, what? I like this game, and which is also, I think, from Guerrilla Games, so that's Sony first party game, right? So that's the thing that, for me, the entire PlayStation experience is a rich gaming experience, whether through the technology, whether through the titles that they have on. My entire experience is next gen. My entire experience is what I appreciate. So it's not any one thing, it's the sum of all those parts. And it's part of the reason why, despite the fact that I am a geek and I like that the Xbox has superior computational power, it's not
still a closed ecosystem, right?
Yeah, but it's not the whole immersive experience. There is no Miles Morales, there is no Forbidden West for me to see and be like, wow, I want to have that experience. And that's what I came away with at the Sony event, that I want this experience, right? It was removed from the actual hardware. I wanted this experience. And if I can only get the experience here, I'm definitely going to be here. I mean,
I think you raise a very good point. If a lot of people are committed into an ecosystem, whether it's Apple, whether it's Android, Android's not, I guess, less of a commitment, but
yes.
So Apple's a good example that you committed into that ecosystem. A lot of PlayStation gamers are the same thing. They love the titles, and that's what they go for. And in many ways, that's why I've always been an Xbox fan over the last few years. I think the question then, I mean, if you're a PlayStation fan, of course, this is going to be your path. If you're a PC gamer or Xbox gamer, would you turn to this device as your primary gaming device, or would you look at this and say, maybe I should look at this? I think from a casual gamer or a gamer that's looking to get into something new, looking at a PC versus a console, this is a very appealing purchase.
Yes.
Instead of buying a gaming PC, you're going to get so much more value for money over the next couple of years, especially if you're not a geek and you're trying to upgrade your machine, right? So you've got one close, that's why I love consoles all my life. I mean, apart from software upgrades, there's nothing new to do. You just sit down and jam. And this thing does it remarkably well because of the specs. You switch between games relatively easily. Cutscenes happen between, there's no loading time between cutscene and gameplay. And that's pretty impressive. And that's an important point, if you're looking for a good gaming experience.
Oh yeah, if you think about it right now, if you had to put together the equivalent computer for this sort of experience, at least in computational power, you would spend literally twice as much as this, if not more, or maybe 3 times as much.
True.
Right, that's what would happen. But then again,
that's a big commitment.
You are aware of the fact that if you are going to be playing on PC, you are playing because you want that premium experience that you may not be able to get on consoles. But as consoles have become this powerful, it means you need to spend that much more, right? Sure. Because to get an experience that's appreciatably better than this, you need to buy at least a RTX 3080 or something of the sort. That's already costs more than the price of the.
Look, if you have a machine that you use for work, and I think a lot of producers, the reason why I have it, I do a lot of video editing, so I produce a lot of stuff. Yeah. The PC, that is a kind of side effect of having a powerful PC. So it's a work/gaming thing. So yes, from that point of view, I mean, it's a much easier sell for. I think if you're looking at gamers in general, if you're just using a device for gaming, getting a purpose-built device is the way to go.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's PC hardware inside, right? It's literally AMD, all AMD inside.
And that should also bode well for game titles and maybe getting more interesting game developers that will develop games. So, I mean, gaming will be the thing. The platform will be generic or will be more general than what it is today. So it doesn't really matter which platform you're playing a game on. I can see a future where the best games get launched. Obviously, we'll have exclusive titles, but the best games will just get launched across all titles. And no matter who you are, you'll be cross-playing with anybody. You know, people will just be committed to the platform.
Ultimately, the things that I think should differentiate between whether you go Xbox, Nintendo Switch, or PlayStation, or whatever, it has to be things that are greater than just what you get visually, than computational power. They have to add more to that experience. It has to be about the experience. Because at some point, if all the consoles have 20 teraflops of power, what difference does it make then? It has to be more. It has to be the titles appealing to a particular demographic, even a controller, right? They have to compete with something that's more significant than just what I can see visually.
Right. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying you can do streaming service and stuff, and that's another ecosystem that, as a home entertainment device, which is just going to be prominently standing next to a TV or in your entertainment area, you want to exploit all of those features. And I think it's early days in the sense of the PS5's capabilities, but we've already seen what can be done, generally speaking, with consoles and other services. Look, all that remains now is to go play some more games, I think. We
My
definitely
favorite
need
part.
to tackle that Miles Morales some more.
Yeah.
I want to see Godfall as well, which is another game that's been making some rounds. And let's get game, man. Thank you for giving your opinion on this. I think it's been an interesting take.
Thank you for the opportunity, man. Like, where else was I going to get the opportunities to come and play or mess around with the PlayStation 5? At least this early.
Only every year.
Exactly. So it's all good, man.
All right, well, that concludes another great episode by me and myself. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And do tune in. Tune in. We'll do another episode once we get some great. What's the next on? What's next on your sleeve? Are we going to have something? Graphics card. Something you can't talk about yet.
Graphics card.
Okay,
graphics card.
Let's do something
from Team Red.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
like
that would be
we
cool.
also need to talk about AMD properly.
Of course, Team Red. Actually, Ryzen 5000 and AMD 6800 XT. You know, all Team Red.
Now I've put it down. Now it's there. It's going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Ciao, ciao.
Peace.